I figured I'd shoot a quick video and just showing how the actual servos work in the solenoid and how to check the solenoid on the cruise control. Well, first off, if you're having issues, one of the things that you can check are the actual solenoids in the servo. And to do that, you take the two screws out, you remove this part, and then this part that's here, you take and just wiggle it. Those are your three solenoids. Okay, now to test them, what you can do is the pin numbers. This is pin 1, this is pin 4. You energize pin 3 with 12 volts, and you ground pin number 4. Now when you do that, you should see this solenoid pull in, which it did. Then what you do is you take a jumper wire. With the jumper wire, you hook that also up to ground. And then what you do is you take the other end of the jumper wire, and if you ground both pin 1 and 2, you should see it that both of those servos pull in. Now that would cause the actual diaphragm to pull in. Okay? If you were to energize just this one, what happens is that is the bleed, so that would allow you to slow down. If you were to have these both energized and diaphragm pulled in, and you were to energize just this one, what ends up happening is you basically get a hold, so the diaphragm stays where it's at. So that's how you can check these to see if they're working. If for some reason they seem like they're sluggish, what you can do is you can take the actual metal internal parts out, sort of clean them. To be able to do that, what you do is you just disconnect everything. If you were to flip this over, this bracket here, you can pry off. So what it is, I just wiggle the bracket off. Now what we have here is we have access to the actual ends. These ends come out, and then to actually see the metal part that goes inside, if you take off the rubber cap with a spring, it allows you to pop those out. Now if they look like these and are nice and shiny, you should be in good shape, but if they become rusty, you'd have to clean them up. Probably put a little lubricant on there very lightly, and then you put them back in. Then what you would do is take this bracket, put this bracket back over the top, and these will keep those end pieces in. Then what you can do is take the rubber piece with the spring on it, and that'll fit over the end of that. You sort of press in and twist a little bit. If those all check out, then the next test is to actually test to see if there's a problem with the diaphragm. Well, again, to do that, there's like a ledge back here. The ledge lines up with a little notch in the plastic case. This gets slid back in, sort of pops down in, where they all sort of seat in there. Then what you would do is you'd pull a suction on this. Once again, energize pin 3, ground pin 4, and with a vacuum on it, you energize pin 1 and 2, and the diaphragm should pull in. And then to hold it so that it doesn't come back out, you'd want to energize again this pin right here, and the diaphragm should stay in and not come back out. Well, what happened with mine is I did that, and it's the issue I was having. I was noticing the truck would not stay at a consistent speed. I'd set it at 60, and then it would slowly go down to about, say, 55, speed back up to 60, slowly speed down to 55, and eventually altogether it stopped working. Well, I sort of suspected the solenoid itself. I checked the servos, they checked out. Ended up that when I pulled a vacuum on this and then hit pin 3 to sort of hold the vacuum, I heard air leaking, which I shouldn't have heard, And what I did is I pried apart the front case from the back. Here's the rubber diaphragm, and as you can see right here, there was a rip right here in the diaphragm. And at times what would happen is when it pulled in, it sort of bunched up enough that it sort of held, but when it was in certain positions, the hole was big enough that it just wouldn't work at all. So it actually was the rubber diaphragm, and that's what the issue was on mine. Now, so what it's a matter of doing is getting a new one, and that's what I did. Hook that up. Then what I want to do is ground the other one, but because I needed the jumper, I'm going to sort of do this one to sort of expose so I can get both that connection and the jumper to it. So at this point, you could hear the click. That means that one of the sunlights pulled in, so it's ready to go. And then what I'm going to do here is take the other jumper, get that on the other two pins. With the other two pins on, pull a little bit of a vacuum here. You can see that pulls in. Okay. Now, right at the moment it's holding, but that's just because there's no leaks in it. And if I were to release it or move it to the first pin, you see it comes back out. With them both energized, you can see it pulls in. You can really pull it in. And if you have a good servo with just something like a mini vac with this thing where it's at, you'll notice it's been sitting here a while and it hasn't moved. It's just been sitting there. Where previously what would happen is this diaphragm would just slowly leak up because of the hole in it. And you could actually hear it leaking. So, there we go.